how can I never be angry? And practice patience with the people I dislike. So that was a question from the DPL, and I'm very happy to have to get this question. And as reference, Shantideva's A Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And this is chapter 6, I presume. So, however, what I'm thinking is, of course, I'll try to touch it with Shantideva's text, maybe not today. And I think before we read Shantideva's text, I think it is necessary to get background, precise information, as precise as possible, but not so flourish and not too extensive, but it's concrete. Since we get this information, then we can also better understand Shantideva's text. I always refer to Dalai Lama's instruction for us. He is most experienced with this subject, and he always emphasized that the best Buddhist practice is watching our mind and try to change our mind. This is actually his concrete message for all of us. Question: how can I never be angry? And the Dalai Lama's answer is very simple. Practice love and kindness. When we are hearing about this kind of questions, so firstly we will say, that might be not so realistic, and that must be, we couldn't get proper short answer. This is not true. But it is really true, this short answer to apply in our mind, with our mind. This is one of the difficult job for all of us. I recently listened his talks, and he said to this same subject, he met one great scholar, great scientist from America. I'm sorry. He had very difficult time when he was young, because his father was very short-tempered, and because of that, his youth was very, very terrible. And after passing away of his father, then he always struggled with the short temper by himself, for himself. So therefore, one time, after he meeting with the Dalai Lama very frequently actually, and once he asked me, I had this and that problems with short temper, and what can I do? Dalai Lama explained about love and kindness. He was very much interested and put into practice regularly, very intensively. After 7 months, only after 7 months, he came to see Dalai Lama again, and he said, your teaching was best teaching for me. I practiced, I learned it very much, so now I wouldn't get angry anymore. After 7 months. So that means we all of us knowing that love and kindness is wonderful, it is necessary to to achieve or to practice, and then patience is also very important. But this kind of recognition is remain in our verbally level. We, all of us had very, how should I say, the lack of put into practice. We only talking about that, but never try seriously. So that was the problem. And then another occasion, Dalai Lama gave a talk about loving kindness to a group of school teachers in the state, USA. And after that, the several US schools organized study and meditation on loving kindness in the school. Every day about 5 to 10 minutes or something like that. And then one or a few other, I don't know exactly, but some US teachers reported Dalai Lama after about 1 year. Especially his students were very wild. But after the practice regularly, loving kindness in the school, in the class, so after about 1 year, however, a short period, many of, or maybe not, it's not, may not be true to say all students, but all children, but many of them become very calm and become more friendly. These are the real significance. If we are seriously practice about loving kindness, it will change. It will help us. As we discussed already in a few occasions about practice loving kindness, this is really, of course, we can talk about loving kindness with help of any kind of spiritual way, but in fact, according to Dalai Lama, loving kindness has nothing to do with spirituality, but it has to do with the main task of the human beings, or actually all sentient beings. Everybody would like to have loving kindness. Whoever have or has loving kindness, people will draw towards this person. People like this person who has loving kindness. Just example, including the animals. Just example, we had a nice small dog, and sometimes, of course, he wants to play with us, and he comes to me and expected play for some time with him. But if I will engage with my work or whatever, then of course I cannot stop and just pay attention for him. And if I don't pay attention, then of course he'll be upset. He'll be upset, and then his head will become lower, lower. But still he never give up and is lying down in front of me. But this is one. Other one is sometimes he annoying me because he insisted want to play with me. Then only if I show my physical or my expression from my face, without saying, without hand gesture, but just showing the special way to, not very friendly to him, he got the message, and then he just disappeared because he didn't like that. What he likes loving kindness. He expected loving kindness. As soon as I show a little bit of smile or friendliness, then he started to jumping and playing. So these are very clear. All sentient beings need loving kindness, expect to get loving kindness from the other. So this is the basic task. So therefore, we need to cultivate one's own loving kindness. So therefore, we need learning many different kinds of our mental attitude, how we react, how should we react, for what, why and for what. So there are many points. So I just put some words together, and I wish that from the DPL make a list, and if you could distribute next time, and then people can have this list and keep in your house, in your home, and maybe hang on the wall or wherever you like, and then occasionally, frequently, just read through the list. And from this list, which kind of point, which points are for you easier, which are not easier, and how can you learn from this word? Why you should learn? This kind of procedure need to be done. So only through this way we will be achieve loving kindness. As I mentioned last days, the point that I'm going through is nothing to do with top down. Of course, Buddha and great scholars and great practitioners advise us, but no one give us as order. You have to do this. Nothing. It's nothing to do with their wish, but our needs. Because of we are humans. We are living in a human society. We cannot live alone. Since we have to live together with human sisters and brothers, better we live more harmoniously and more friendly, more whatever, instead of with conflict and so on, so forth. All disharmony and conflict and harmony produced by ourselves. You cannot expect that you can remain as it is without even thinking about that to change. But from all other human beings or whoever will be changed and to you very friendly. That's wrong. We must change. We need to be friendly to others. So the others will also be same in the position. Our goal is to increase or cultivate pure love, friendly, kindness, tenderness, benevolent, affection, and kind. These are our main goal, as well as compassion.
以及悲心。
And then, in order to achieve this goal, we need to learn, never mind which can be first, which should be second, and so on, but all these following points need to be considered. For example, tolerance, endurance, patience. The tolerance is one of the very important. All our problems somehow produce without having tolerance. And all of thinking, the way I'm thinking is the right way. Only this. Other need to be adjusted to me or with me. This is intolerant. This is also not realistic. Why should I have such a right to think that everybody need to be tolerant with me, but without me? I can do whatever I feel. I can say whatever I would like. This is not realistic. It's nothing to do with Buddhism or spirituality, but it's need for humanity. Next is be content, satisfaction, or contentment as well. Without having a feeling of satisfaction or contentment, we become greedy. We always want. Think of want. Just grasp. And then through this wish to achieve, to get all whatever I want, for example. Maybe it's easier to use a first single person. So otherwise it sounds sometimes that I'm just saying from the top down, I as a teacher and give such an order, and you as student. That's not true. We are just discussing. No one, since from Buddha himself, all the lamas, all the teachers make suggestion for all of us. It's necessary to do this and that. If you would like to achieve really reliable happiness. If you don't, welcome to do whatever you like. But there's no demand. Not from Buddha, not from Bodhisattvas, and from teachers. So it's up to us. So therefore, if I want to achieve so many things, it's not realistic. So therefore, I must learn, be content. Whatever I need, they all have this ability have a limit. I must see the limit. I must know the limit. I should not be greedy, because it's not realistic. I cannot get everything. Your question is, how can I never be angry? My additional question is, what I want? My answer is harmony. If I want harmony, then of course I mentioned earlier, I explained earlier, tolerant, be content, and as well as forgiveness. The forgiveness is one of the crucial for produce harmony. Forgiveness is, for example, we are all human beings. Nobody is perfect. Everybody, without exception, doing some wrong way. So therefore, we need to understand. We should understand. It is their fault. But why should we insist it? Or he or she did this and that mistake. So therefore, I don't like. And I don't want nothing to do with this and that person. If I think this way, the boomerang comes onto me. I never get harmony and happiness. Because happiness and harmony cannot produce from one side. Must be both sides. And then also we need to understand others' problems. And through this understanding, we will be able to more, how should I say, we can produce, we can develop better forgiveness. To point out others' fault is most easy way, and regular in our way of life, and all faults produce or comes from the others. I myself regarded as very pure, without mistake. I never do mistakes. I'm always all right. That's my attitude, which is totally wrong. And then also it is very important in order to develop better understanding, cautious and careful. And I always, for example, in the toilets in the aircraft, there are always very often I can read cautious to the next passenger or something like that. This for me is very, very important teaching, because that's we are human beings like to have certain happy level, but this happiness can produce by ourselves, each of us. We all have this responsibility. If I neglect to support next passenger or next person, of course I did big mistake, in fact. But I need to understand that was not correct, not improper. Careful, aware. The awareness is always important. Without awareness, actually we can say all our mistakes or wrong actions produced or developed coming through the lack of aware. Friendship is very, very crucial in order to produce harmony. The word friendly is also very nice, I think. So everybody, whoever use this word, oh, he's very friendly, or she is a very friendly person, that says always good. But he or she is very unfriendly. This word sounds never good. And everybody admire people, those who are very friendly, reacted. And from the way of using this word, we cannot say he or she is wonderful, unfriendly. So that means this kind of combination, it not suits in our language. So therefore, friendly is needful, very important to have. How can we have? Who can we have? I. Each of us. How can I cultivate friendly reaction or mind? Through all the words that I explained before, with tolerant, with content, with forgiveness, with understanding, with careful, aware. All these words link together. Through this, it makes this person a very friendly person. The person who are intolerant, never be satisfied, and never to have a forgiveness, and no sign of understanding, and without awareness, this cannot produce harmony and friendly attitude. It is also important to have that I respect others and regard others. Without having respect, then it will be certain mental attitude the mental attitude of disrespect. But disrespect is baseless. There's no logical reason that I can be disrespect to the others. All sentient beings, all human beings have equally right to achieve happiness, and everybody have same equally right to avoid, or better to say, not suffering. If I don't respect to someone, I destroyed their need or his need. From which logic, from what kind of condition I am allowed to be disrespect to the others? Good communication. Good communication is most important to produce our relationship between me and others. So good communication cannot be produced only by others, and I just wait from the other will respect to me, and I can do everything, whatever I like. This cannot work. So therefore, we must understand, and we must think, good communication cannot be one-sided. We have, if I go to the Buddhist side, we can read that some texts mention that we, or better to say, I as a student, I have to follow whatever my teacher says. That's not proper. That's not correct. Because, for example, if you read the Tsongkhapa's Lamrichemo, they also mentioned, whatever teacher says to you, if it is compatible with Dharma, then of course you should follow. But before you follow, you need to prove. You need to check it. If you feel there's some misunderstanding or misinterpretation or whatever, misleading, you need to talk to him or to her, to your teachers. If you find improper explanation, you shouldn't follow it. So therefore, I need to understand. My teachers has always right. I am, as student, always wrong. And teachers has only to say. I, as a student, always only to listen not correct. So from the communication, I mentioned just now, communication cannot be one side. From up to this point, I just selected more or less positive words. Now comes more or less a little bit, not necessarily negative, but other sides. So among this, just as mentioned, communication between teacher and disciple also need to have run correctly, as well as between, if I am talking about from the Buddhist point of view, from the Dhamma sisters, brothers, also same. We need to have harmony. We need to produce correct common communications. Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes some mistake, but we need to understand. We shouldn't be keeping our mind and thinking bad things toward this and that people, that person. Especially as Dhamma sisters, brothers, within the community of Dhamma sisters and brothers. Generally, talking bad things about other is very, very harmful. Harmful for yourself, for ourselves, and others. And especially, as I mentioned just now, as Dhamma sisters and brothers, within the Dhamma sisters and brothers need to take care. And on top of that, of course, even among their friends, among the relatives, among the especially in between children and parents, between the wife and husband, we all this part need to have pay respect to each other. Everybody have equally right. For example, if I say between husband and wife, since they're married, they have right 50-50. It cannot be. The wife has always right to say, give the order, and the husband need to just follow. This cannot be. Or other way around, also not. So 50-50, whatever they have, whatever they possess equally right, 50-50. I just remember some of our friends in Germany, when they are talking about, and there are actually some friends we have, and then some wives are more powerful than their husbands, or sometimes other way around. So they are always talking about my house, my this, my that, my children. But her husband is next to her. The children cannot be only from her. I think, as far as I understand, the husband has also same role to produce their children. And then, of course, since they're married, whatever she possesses also her husband, or other way around. So therefore, talking about my house, my this, my that. This is very clear sign of egoistic. Egoistic is the great hindrance for us as a human being. Since beginningless time, as we Buddhists are saying, only through the egoistic way of thinking disturb us and put into the samsara. What only we don't need is egoistic. We must try to relieve or free from the egoistic. Therefore, we are studying Buddhist lojong and so on. That's the only reason to remove, to depart from one's own egoistic. It's very sad if we couldn't do that. As I mentioned for some days earlier, we have two choices. Either we are just saying that I'm Buddhist, or I just keep whatever I am. Both combination is not possible. Very egoistically Buddhist, no. My wife is not slave of mine. I'm not her slave. We have equally right, and we are respected equally. So this is the fundamental things for the harmony. I must learn, instead of always saying I, my. I must learn mine instead of mine, our. Just include other people. If I always exclude other people, how can I learn harmony and loving kindness? And there's one person, and she always is saying I, and everything, every sentence, whatever we're talking, never mind, just turn up on about her benefit. And some others say, oh, she is not very good example as a Buddhist. That's very true. We as a Buddhist must learn how we need to be and to present in order to not disturb others' need and others' interests. As I mentioned a few days ago, we must learn to understand others. Start with one's nearest person. So therefore, I must understand what my wife thinks, what my wife needs, and her benefits. This is step number one. Then step number two, my children, my relatives, and my friends, and so on. Without having this, I wouldn't and I cannot practice all sentient beings, include all sentient beings. I'm supposed to include all sentient beings and wish and try to their happiness. And then, if I being bossy, intolerant, sorry, actually intolerance, I think I just mentioned earlier, I don't remember now. So however, self-opinionate and overpower, and to get the upper hand, and stubborn, and know all these states or attitude, if I possess, if I keep all these possess, how can I communicate harmoniously? So therefore, I must learn. I do respect at least a certain amount of human beings. Of course, I wish all sentient beings be free from the suffering and all these things. Whatever we are reciting and practice with for immeasurable practice, but it is only can be start. It only can be done from the nearest person. Not instead of start with all sentient beings, at the end, your nearest person. That's not realistic. And then, countercharge is also one of the, I don't know what should I say, habit in our daily life. And always we, or I would like to find the fault by the others. And I am pretending that I am the always clean and pure. Whatever something happen as a misconduct or whatever, then I always saying, oh, that's because of him, because of her. I'm really very pure man. So that's not realistic. Of course, all these matters connected with the psychological way of thinking. And there are, between every human society, they have different views. For example, the psychological way of thinking between European, American, and we Asian. Among the Asians, of course, there are big differences between the Chinese and Tibetans and Indians and so on and so forth. So one can debate endless. But the main thing is who has right and who has wrong. This does not matter. But the main thing is which will be benefit for our happiness, for our happy life. So that means just one example. According to European way of thinking, all these faults need to be made clear. Just discussed, need to be discussed. If it's possible, immediately. But according to Indian psychology, Indian Buddhist way of thinking, is never mind, just dig out all these problems by the others, whatever, or whoever. It's there's no reasonable, no reliable reason. So main thing, our goal is not only to make clear, but the goal is peace and harmony. And then, on top of that, generally speaking, the Europeans have less rancor than, for example, Tibetans. Tibetans are unfortunately very much engaged with the rancor, way of thinking of rancor. So just one example. In our area, the nomads have frequently fighting to each other. And they need to destroy the other family if there are problems happened. And if within this generation they couldn't destroy the other family, so then they will say, their father will say, "Now I'm going to die, and I couldn't manage that to destroy that family. But now the oldest son, this is your duty. So you need to, you shouldn't forget that, what he or they did to our family. And then he must try to destroy others. And if he, during his lifetime, it's not possible, he must give the authority or responsibility to his son. So therefore, from generation to generation, take over this kind of rancor. It's very, very bad. In that case, there's no sign of Buddhist. Just Buddhist. Envy, jealous. This is these qualities, this way of thinking, or our attitude happened very frequently in our life. No matter whether you are whatever. For example, we can see very clearly among the Tibetan society, and his monastery built such a big temple. Now our monastery should be bigger and nicer, and there need to be also. So one after the other. Look at the beginning, early 60s. The way of life in the monasteries, most simple way. Look at the Dalai Lama's teaching hall in Dharamsala. How simple is this? Please compare with monasteries in South India, Nepal, and wherever other areas. You cannot compare. They compete in Dalai Lama's temple very fast already, since many, many years. They're never thinking about, there's a sign why Dalai Lama built such a simple temple. They never got the message. They only think their own way of thinking. This is no sign of good Buddhist practitioner, I must say, unfortunately. Because jealous. Dalai Lama also said during any of his teaching, you don't compare with others' worldly development, but if you want to compare about your study, you need to see how good studied by the other monasteries. You need to compete with them. But that's correct. That's helpful for you. But not to compete with the material things. Anger and greed. Both of them belongs to one of the worst mental attitude or mental concept, which are based or come from the ignorance. And it is many occasions very difficult to make to find to make separation, because out of greedy, out of attachment, comes also anger, or other way around. So very frequently they are just they have mixed positions. Dalai Lama discussed with a very old scientist, and I think he lived, maybe he still lived, or I don't remember, but nearly 100 years old. So, and he said to Dalai Lama, he's a scientist special for the brain and these things, for the mental disposition. And he said, 90% of our human way of thinking is concept. Only 10% is pure reaction from a pure mind. But the rest of this concept, such as anger, such as attachment, greed, jealous, and whatever, all these things involved. Then, of course, pride, self-importance. These are very harmful. As long as you have, as long as I have my own pride and self-importance, I blocked all other mental developments, because I would think I'm the best. I know more or less everything. Whatever I'm saying, whatever I'm thinking is right. Whatever others say is incorrect. All these attitudes coming from my own pride. I heard there's an elderly monk who never studied Buddhist philosophy. That's in Mundgod, South India. And once he just rested in front of monastery building, and some young monks came and just pushed him, and he fell on the road. And then, after that, he said, "Oh, these wild young monks pushed me, and I fell, but I didn't get angry." And then I want to know why I didn't get angry. And after I think carefully, I understood why. Because I didn't study Buddhist philosophy, so therefore I didn't get angry. It has a very good message, because many good Buddhist students, Tibetan Buddhist students, become great scholar, but they cannot separate from their delusions, especially pride and self-acceptance. They think, I'm a great scholar, I'm very good geshe, and all these things. So therefore, they are very full of pride. And then, my last point of this list is expose one's fault. So this point comes in our mind or in our habit quite frequently. And I'm very clean, but he did that. He has a bad habit. He has a bad attitude. And whatever, all their fault, or his or her faults, exposing in order to showing that I'm very clean. So this is also very, very harmful in order to increase or generate loving kindness and whatever the loving kindness, tenderness, and compassion. As a conclusion, Buddha Shakyamuni taught us 4 points that we should regard it. And I don't think that I can explain you nicely, but what's that? Explain nicely, but the meaning is, although someone angry to you, you should not angry back. Although someone scold you, you should not scold them back. Although someone beat you, you should not beat back. Although someone showing your fault, you should not show their fault. These are 4 points. Basic practice, and all this, whatever we discuss, is in fact very basic practice according to secular ethics. It has nothing to do with spirituality, but only to do with benefit for our lives, my own life and others' lives, and in order to produce harmony between us. If we, as long as we wish to generate harmony life, if we don't want, then we can do whatever we like. Thank you so much.